I believe every person has a right to basic knowledge of how to optimize their mind, body, and spirit. Here, I bring to you influential individuals and ideas to help you live a more healthy, fulfilling life. I'm Julie Fouché, and I'd like to welcome you to Pursuing Health. Welcome to episode 16 of Pursuing Health. I'm really excited to share with you a new type of episode here on Pursuing Health. Today, I'll be sitting down with someone who has dramatically changed the course of his own life and health by changing his lifestyle. You'll have a chance to hear from Katz, who after many years of ups and downs with different diets and exercise programs, finally found lasting success with a paleo diet and CrossFit. He was able to lose over 30 pounds, and more importantly, he cured several chronic diseases, including type 2 diabetes, sleep apnea, hyperlipidemia, and anxiety. He has an incredible story that I know has inspired me, and it's also inspired many of the people around him to make similar changes in their own lives. I first met Pete as a medical student a couple of years ago in the office of one of my preceptors, Dr. Isaacson. Dr. Isaacson is Pete's primary care physician. He also serves as the Assistant Dean for Clinical Education at my medical school, the Cleveland Clinic Lerner College of Medicine. There, he's well known among medical students as a master of developing meaningful relationships with his patients and partnering with them to improve their health. In this episode, Dr. Isaacson will also be joining us to share his perspective on Pete's journey to improving his health over the past several years. In the future, I'd like to share more stories like this. So if you or someone you know has used lifestyle to overcome serious health challenges, please share your stories. You can email me at info@juliefouché.com with your story, and I'll choose some to share here on the podcast. You never know who else might be out there in a similar situation looking for some hope or inspiration. A couple of reminders before we get started today. Number one, if you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget to head over to iTunes to subscribe there and give it a rating. You can also head to my website, juliefouché.com, and enter your email to stay in the loop with the podcast and everything else I'm up to with my newsletter every couple of weeks. If you're interested in training with me, check out my program through Beyond the Whiteboard. This is the actual training I do now, 5 days per week, 1 hour per day, scheduled out for you minute by minute from warm up to cool down. For more information or to try out the program yourself, visit beyondthewhiteboard.com/juliefouché or listen to podcast episode number 12. So with that, let's get started here on Pursuing Health, episode number 16 with Pete Katz and his physician, one of my mentors, Dr. Isaacson. So welcome to episode number 10 of Pursuing Health. I am here with Peter Katz and Dr. Isaacson, who is his physician and also my preceptor here in medical school. And I'm really excited to sit down with both of you and talk about Peter's journey here. I've known you for about 3 years now, and he has a very inspiring story, and I'm excited to talk about it a little bit more today. So maybe we could start off, Pete, if you want to talk a little bit about your background or your athletic background growing up.
Okay, sure. So yeah, I was a pretty chubby kid starting in probably about elementary school, and I think that's a lot more common today. But back when I was the chubby kid in elementary school, there's like 2 or 3 kids, in the class that were chubby kids. So I was probably pretty good athletically, but I just liked food a lot.
Okay.
so I was never the first kid picked on any teams or anything like that. Pretty average. Joined various teams in middle school and that sort of thing. Did a little bit in high school. Just some average academic type sports. But then when I got to college, it's probably the first time in my life I actually got physically in shape. I actually became a vegetarian in college. I did that probably for about probably 25 years. I was a vegetarian. Got into triathlons, lost a lot of weight, was pretty successful with that until I had a knee injury.
Okay.
And then I had some stress from the type of work I was doing at the time.
And you were how old were you at this time?
Well, I think I got into those triathlons probably about somewhere around 19, 20
Okay.
years old, something like that.
Okay.
So that was the first time I was actually in shape for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But then, the real world took hold, hurt my knee, got busy with work, and pretty much stopped doing any sort of exercise at that point.
Okay.
So it wasn't until about 3 years ago that I found CrossFit,
Mm-hmm.
as well as made some big changes to my diet and kind of got back into the realm of being an athlete again.
Probably feels
So,
good, right?
yeah, big change.
I want to talk about that more in a moment, but first, maybe you could talk a little bit about your journey as you declined from those triathlons, and maybe as some of these health problems started to creep in, things that you had tried in the past to try to change your lifestyle to fight those.
Sure. So, not long after I had kind of dropped out of the triathlon thing, gotten into the real world, doing some stressful work.
Mm-hmm.
The sort of the first chink in the armor, I was probably starting to gain weight again, kind of go back to my old eating ways, not exercising. First chink in the armor was I started having a lot of just sort of dizzy spells, feeling like I was going to faint. This is when I actually first met Dr. Isaacson.
Okay.
Because I was going from doctor to doctor, sure there was something terribly wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Isaacson was one of the doctors. I think I first met him in an emergency room.
Oh, wow.
And he eventually, I believe, was the person who told me he thought I think you have an anxiety disorder. To which I said, that's impossible. I'm not anxious.
Right.
And of course, I didn't understand what an anxiety disorder was at that time. And for those listeners who don't know, it's actually like physical symptoms.
Like, were you having like panic attacks?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like you have butterflies in your stomach,
Mm-hmm.
like before a speech or something. It's actually like you feel like, at least in my case, you feel like you're going to have a heart attack or you're going to pass out.
It's scary.
So long story short, I eventually learned that, yes, that's exactly what I had, and started going on some medication for that, did some cognitive behavioral therapy, and kind of got back on track. But I look back at that now as sort of the first, like I said, chink in the armor, where that I think it was directly attributable to diet and lack of exercise.
And
So,
how long have you been working with Dr. Isaacson? Has it been
just about, or just a little over 20 years, I would say.
okay?
Going
pretty close to that, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
going back to when that was in my head.
Okay.
Yeah. So then, just slowly over a period of years, I got heavier. I still didn't do much exercise. A lot of spurts of starting and stopping. I remember several conversations with Dr. Isaacson encouraging me to exercise and do something about my diet. And of course, I always left the office visits with a new resolve. But I'd try different things. They'd last a certain amount of time, and
Right.
was never really able to stick with it. But so then over the years, over that 20 years, different new health problems would start coming up. So over that time, I developed high blood pressure. I had elevated liver enzymes. My cholesterol began to get high. My blood sugar also began to get high, to the point that eventually I had a high enough blood sugar that I was definitely a diabetic. And started on metformin, which is a medicine for, I think it's one of the first medicines most people get
Right.
when they have diabetes. And I had pre-diabetes before that, but eventually I got to this certain level, and it wasn't long after that initial diagnosis that I then got to the point where the metformin wasn't enough, and so Dr. Isaacson recommended an injectable medication called Byetta. That started me really being concerned and thinking, oh, this is the last straw. I can't have diabetes. I can't be injecting myself with medication, checking my
Right.
blood sugar all the time. I mean, I've really felt horrible. Like, how could I have let myself get to this point?
Right.
So that's what really started getting me thinking, I got to do something. That was the point that sort of led me up to discovering CrossFit.
Okay. And Dr. Isaacson, throughout this time, what was your general approach? Obviously, as Pete's blood sugar starts to creep up and you start with the medications, you have the discussions about lifestyle and exercise. What's your perspective on that time frame?
This is an extremely common situation, actually, as Julie knows. And it's one that is really challenging for us as primary care physicians. Pete was really in a common group, someone who busy with life, work, former athlete, and really we had discussions just about every time I saw you. I know several students working in the medical school saw you. And we really worked together to try to say what was a plan that we could come up with that would set you on a path. And I really felt frustrated that I wasn't really helping you that much, that we weren't getting where we wanted to be. And so it's a common situation. And as physicians, we really can't necessarily tell the patient what's best for them. We can try to give some guidance and tell them where we want to go, which is to get healthier and to lose weight. But the path to that is often difficult, and there's probably not one path for each patient.
So you've gone down that path, and eventually you found something that worked for you.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
So yeah, I listen to podcasts like this one occasionally, and when podcasts were first starting to get popular, which was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I was mowing my lawn, and that usually takes me close to 2 hours. So
oh wow,
that's when I listen to podcasts. I was mowing along, and I can't remember the podcast, but it was a podcast about paleo, something I never had heard about, and someone was on the episode and explained how they had lost a ton of weight eating a paleo diet, and so it just sparked my interest, and I bought a few books about it and thought it sounded interesting and thought, hey, I'm going to give this a try. And for those listeners who don't know, paleo is, I would say it's a flavor of a low-carb diet. There's a lot of different low-carb diets out there, but this is the one I came across and decided to give it a try. And as I was starting to read about it and I started doing it, CrossFit kept coming up in the different books I was reading, the different articles online, some of the podcasts. It just seemed to be sort of a loose connection between the two things. And so I thought, I could check out what this is, what CrossFit is, and went on the main CrossFit website, looked for an affiliate. I found one not far from me called CrossFit Painesville. It just happened to be relatively close to my house. Went in there and decided I'm going to check this out. And it was a complete shock. It was, but I did have sort of a background as an athlete for a while that did fairly intense sports, so I think my personality was kind of
well suited.
Suited for something like CrossFit. And so the first 3 months probably I maybe went twice a week. The people were great. They didn't care how in shape or out of shape you were. Everything was scaled, so it didn't matter what the workout was. I was able to do it in some form, and I probably couldn't walk up and down the stairs like a lot of people for literally 3 months at a time. I'd finally start getting recovered, and bam, it would happen again. But I quickly started seeing results, and actually before I started the CrossFit, just the low carb diet, immediately my blood sugar started going down to the point where I just started weaning myself off the different medications. At first I stopped the Byetta, and then I was noticing, well, it's still going down. So then I started cutting back on the metformin, and I think I probably came into an appointment with Dr. Isaacson at some point and said, I just kind of stopped, and he probably didn't really like that idea, but it was working. The blood sugar was still low, going down, and I wasn't having to take the medicine. So I mean, anyone listening to this who has who has diabetes, I feel like the first thing that worked was just cutting carbs out, a low carb diet. I mean, because really carbs are what cause your blood sugar to go up.
Right. Was that at all difficult for you to change from going from being a vegetarian to suddenly eating a lot more meat?
Yeah, it was definitely a mindset change. I think part of the problem, and one of the reasons I probably ended up getting diabetes, because I was a vegetarian, probably like a lot of Americans who ate pasta, bread, crackers, cookies. I mean, it wasn't based on vegetables and whole foods.
Right.
Well, I liked that idea. It wasn't what I ate in practice, and so I think that probably contributed to my getting diabetes. is that I was just eating massive amounts of carbs, which are vegetarian.
Right, right. That's a very good point to
You know,
make.
beans are high carb. They're
Mm-hmm.
vegetarian. They're probably not going to be causing a lot of high blood sugar like pasta or
Mm-hmm.
bread or cookies. But yeah, that was like the main part of my diet. So when I switched to paleo, you know, I did start eating meat, but I've never been a huge meat eater, even on paleo.
Mm-hmm.
I do try to focus more on vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, now I do eat meat. It was a kind of a strange changeover,
Mm-hmm.
but when I started seeing the results, I really felt that at least my body,
Mm-hmm.
maybe most humans, were meant to eat like this.
Yeah,
Just because
right.
everything started, all my blood tests, all the health problems I had started going
to
away.
one by one fall
Yeah.
away, medications fall away. And I think especially you talk about your body being especially susceptible. Dr. Isaacson and I have talked about this, about how sensitive you are to the carbs and how dramatically your blood sugar went down once you changed your diet. And I think at one point, what was your A1C at its highest?
Yeah, so it was actually
I remember.
You remember what was it?
It was, I think, about 11.4, with the normal being about 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say you had one of the more dramatic, probably the most dramatic improvement in that measure of diabetes in the shortest amount of time. And I would say, I think for you, the diabetes was a wake-up call.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
really,
Mm-hmm.
that fundamentally changed the way you thought about things and really got you motivated. And I think the positive results you got reinforced that. And so it was you doing the work. And actually, I was thrilled when you were cutting back on medicine. You know, I maybe wanted you to check in with me a little bit more, but I couldn't have been happier, actually.
Yeah, I also think what I found was interesting is that as I started doing the CrossFit, I don't know if it's because I was losing weight, gaining muscle, eating low carb, but the longer I did the CrossFit, I found that if I cheated and
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, went back to some of my old ways,
Right.
had an occasional binge on bad food or
Mm-hmm.
had a cheat day, I would of course check my blood sugar right away. As I started doing the CrossFit
Mm-hmm.
longer and longer, they would have little or no effect on my blood sugar.
Interesting.
So it's like I think the muscle. There could be lots of reasons, of course. I'm not a
Right.
doctor or scientist, but you know, maybe it's that the muscle is using the blood sugar. It's like another pathway for that blood sugar to get used up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's somehow increasing my sensitivity to the insulin. I'm not sure, but now I find that I can eat almost anything I want without any significant change in my blood sugar from day to day.
And that's probably because you've lost weight,
And that, yeah,
Yeah.
because your insulin works better when you're at a lower weight. And so the composition of the diet has a role, but also if you're able to have weight loss, that can actually, your diabetes has been cured with lifestyle regimens, really.
hmm
How often do you see that in your practice, Dr. Isaacson?
You know, it's a potential for almost a huge number of people with what we call type 2 diabetes, which is
Mhm.
more weight related, but it's difficult to achieve. And so you're not alone, but you know, you're in the minority of people who are able to do that. But it's out there for everyone. Really, they
Mhm.
can have an effect on this more than medications in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, and not only the diabetes went away, but now I think in my very last visit with Dr. Isaacson, my blood pressure was below normal. I got rid of. I used to have sleep apnea. I got rid of that probably within 6 months of starting CrossFit. Yeah, no more diabetes medication. No more. I used to have high blood pressure medication. Don't have that anymore.
Mhm.
Literally everything. The anxiety.
Mhm.
I probably took that anxiety medication for 15, 20 years. I stopped that. Absolutely no issues whatsoever.
Wow.
So I can only link that all those things also to the diet,
lifestyle,
and
yeah.
the CrossFit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
So what are some of the things, the milestones or things that you're most proud of in this whole process, or things you've achieved? They
well,
can be CrossFit related or, medication health related.
yeah. Well, really, reversing what was a train wreck. is the best thing. I mean, losing weight, it's something that I struggle with my whole life, is losing weight. And now I feel like I have sort of a formula that I'm in complete control of to keep that weight off, and really be able to do anything I want to do. I feel like I'm 10 years younger, at least biologically, than my age. And I see a lot of people my age who are experiencing the things I was experiencing, that they're just experiencing them a little later than I was. I experienced them much earlier, probably because I was heavier much earlier. And I just feel like, I sort of have a new freedom or sort of secret to staying young and healthy and being able to do what I want to do. So those were all great achievements. And then in CrossFit itself, I mean, I look forward to it every single day. It's sort of a fun activity to go do, almost like you're going out for recess or gym class.
Yeah.
I love the camaraderie. I love the feeling I get when after I do a hard workout. I would consider myself a little bit of a junkie.
Sure.
Because there is this very real sort of high you get.
Absolutely.
After doing it. I'm sure you know.
I'm sure I understand. I think we can connect on that level.
And there's so many things that you learn in CrossFit that are challenging that you're always going to be working on getting better at.
Right.
And so there's always a challenge, and you're always kind of achieving something you never thought you could do in your life.
And I think when we first met, you had gotten your first pull-up recently.
Yeah.
So what things are you chasing right now?
Well, I struggle with double unders.
Okay.
I can do single double. I cannot string together double unders yet. It drives me crazy. Yeah, pull-ups. I did my first Murph this year.
Wow.
With all 100 pull-ups on myself.
So Dr. Isaacson, that workout is, it was named after Lieutenant Michael Murphy, who was died in combat. And there's a lot of hero workouts that are named after, fallen heroes. And so the workout is run a mile, do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then run a mile. And prescribed, you do it all with a weight vest on. So it is a doozy of a workout.
I did not use the weight vest. but I was very happy to do 100 pull-ups. Yes. Yeah. Now I can't string them together and kip and all that stuff, but I did the 100 pull-ups.
That is fantastic.
So yeah, to even think I would be capable of something like that 3 years ago I would have thought you were insane if you told me I'd ever be doing that. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things in CrossFit that I would like to think one day I might be able to do, like a muscle up or something like that, or chest to bar pull-ups, which I can't do yet.
So there's always something to be chasing and to be working on.
It is, and I found that I'm really good at some things at CrossFit. I'm horrible at others, but just
like most of us,
just like everybody. Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that you found something that works for you. I want to talk a little bit more about why you think this was what stuck for you, and Dr. Isaacson, maybe from your perspective too, why he had tried other types of lifestyle modifications in the past that hadn't really stuck or hadn't really lasted for a while. So what is it about CrossFit and Paleo that made you stick with it for 3+ years?
Well, as far as the Paleo, I honestly do believe that even though no one in modern world can eat like somebody who existed in the Paleolithic era.
Right.
That's the basis of the diet. That for those who don't know, that you eat what someone living in that period of history would be able to eat. So yeah, we can't duplicate exactly what that is, but we can approximate what it is. And just the way I feel and the way my health improved based on that diet, it's impossible for me after experiencing that to really try to want to go back to the way I was eating. So that has helped me stick with the diet. As far as the exercise, I think CrossFit is kind of unique in that it is a community type of activity. So when you join a CrossFit gym, there's a lot of camaraderie. You look forward to seeing the people who work there as trainers or that you work out with. So that helps a lot. And then there's also you're always working on achieving something. It's different every time you go. And really there is that addictive nature to me.
Sure.
I love the feeling I have at the end of the workout.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's the same that you, like before, maybe you were addicted to sugar or carbohydrates. I've heard of people who have been addicted to drugs or addicted to different things that do CrossFit, and that kind of replaces for them that addiction or that thing that they can always go back to get that high, if you want to call it
Yeah.
that.
That's exactly what it feels like. I mean, I really, I can't wait to go back.
Excited for your workout today.
Even though the workout itself, oftentimes it sucks.
Yeah.
Right. In the middle of it, you
grueling,
hate it.
awful, and sucks. But at the end, you just feel so good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What do you think, Dr. Isaacson?
Well, I think that there's not one size that fits everyone, and so as physicians, and Julie knows this and learns this, what we want to do is partner with our patients and really tap in and help them along the way. We usually don't have all the answers. We have some medical knowledge. We can guide them, but it's actually trying to be open to what the patient wants to work on. So from my standpoint, the fact you found something you wanted to work on and it connected with you was fabulous. And I think having some structure, so you didn't have to sit each day and decide, what am I going to do today? You had some structure imposed. I think probably the CrossFit did a lot of that, where you're going to go, you had a community that supported you, and we tried to support you in the office, but really it was mostly about you and having a structure to what your diet was going to look like, what your exercise was going to look like, and the fact you had positive results, it just reinforced this and it really sort of jump-started the whole process. So, I've actually been thrilled. I think you have done the work on this clearly, and that's what's true most of the time, is trying to help the patient, but most of the work comes from them.
I do think it's true. I mean, every person's going to be likely to succeed at something in particular. It's finding what that is.
Right.
Yeah. I do think, like, I was never a big weightlifter.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that has some benefits that you don't get from other exercises. At least, I don't know if that's specific for diabetes or not, but it seems like having more muscle mass as opposed to just doing a cardio program,
Mm-hmm.
I believe has a pretty strong impact on some of the results I've been seeing. Just a totally a personal opinion.
Absolutely.
So.
And we see that it is important for people to do exercise that's going to make them stronger too, and it'll help later in life as you start to deteriorate, like physically. It's going to slow that process, like we talk about in the CrossFit in the level 1 about not wanting to be in a nursing home when you're older because you can't get out of bed or you can't sit down and go to the bathroom because you've built up this strength over the years that you can support yourself into your old age. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'm planning to do CrossFit till the day I die.
In the nursing
see
home,
what happens.
right?
Yeah.
I'll be right there with you.
It's probably worth thinking about too, the cost savings. If you think about
Yeah.
healthcare costs now,
Well, that's
the
true.
amount of medicine you're on, and the cost of lifestyle interventions is really so minimal compared to all the medical care. I mean, you're saving yourself a lot of money. You're saving a lot of resources having to be spent in terms of medicine, medical care. So it is really an untapped resource, I think. I know Julie's very interested in pursuing this, and it's really a great thing because it just has benefits not only for the person but for our whole society, really, in terms of resource utilization and making the whole society healthier.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true. Actually, just in the last year, it's the first time I've ever been on a high deductible health plan, which a lot of people are going to. A lot of companies are going to that type of model. So not only am I saving money by not coming to the doctor, but because I have this high deductible health plan, I have a health savings account.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm putting in what I would have paid for a traditional health plan anyway into this savings account, and it is growing.
Yeah.
I mean, basically because I'm not going to the doctor every other month and buying all these different drugs and supplies. Yeah. So I mean, there's a silver lining.
There's
there's
so
save
many
some
benefits.
money. That's right.
And the fact of you just seem so much happier and healthier all around. Like you said, you feel maybe 10 years younger. And
absolutely.
I'm sure it's permeating into all the different aspects of your life as well.
Yeah. Well, it does. I mean, you feel even in non exercise or diet related areas, just in life, doing something at work, a project, something you don't want to do, it just the success I've seen in CrossFit kind of translates into that. Like if I have a project, I don't want to do it, I treat it just like a WOD.
Right. I can do this. If I can,
right.
if I can do the workout, I can do this. I can get through anything.
I'm going to just do it page by page, and it's going to be done.
One rep at a time.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys both so much for taking the time to sit down and chat. Your story is very inspiring, and I hope that there are other listeners who can connect with you and hopefully follow in your footsteps. So thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time on Pursuing Health.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I hope you were inspired by Pete as much as I was. Don't forget to share your own stories. If you or someone you know has used lifestyle to overcome a serious health challenge, please email me at info@juliefouché.com. I'll choose some of these stories to share here on the podcast. You never know who else might be out there looking for some inspiration who's in similar situations. To make sure you never miss an episode and to receive exclusive content from me, head to my website, juliefouché.com, and subscribe to my email list. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes as well and give Pursuing Health a rating. I always love hearing your feedback, so please continue to leave comments under this post on my website at juliefouché.com and share your thoughts on social media. You can use the hashtag JFHealth with any feedback or questions or ideas for future episodes. Thanks again so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time on Pursuing Health.